All right, everybody, welcome back. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that might seem small, but it can actually make a huge difference in your Excel game.
It's one of those things that once you know it, you can't imagine life without it.
Exactly. And we're talking about a single key on your keyboard, the F4 key.
Ah, yes, the mighty F4. It's a real hidden gem.
It really is.
Oh,
Because it helps you master one of the most fundamental, but sometimes tricky concepts in Excel, cell references.
right, cell references. These are the backbone of your formulas. They tell Excel where to look for the data it needs to crunch those numbers.
Okay, so like when you're building a formula, you click on another cell to include its value. That's a cell reference.
Precisely. You're telling Excel, hey, grab the data from that cell over there and use it in this calculation.
But I know there's more to it than that. Something about relative and absolute references.
You're right, there are different types of cell references, and they behave differently when you copy and paste formulas.
Okay, now you're making me nervous. See, I think I learned about this once. But if I'm being honest, most of the time I just copy and paste formulas and hope for the best.
And that's where F4 comes in to save the day.
Okay, tell me everything. What does this magical F4 key actually do?
So imagine you're editing a formula, and you have a cell reference selected. You hit F4, and boom, you cycle through the different types of references. It's like a lock.
A lock.
Yeah. One press of F4 and it's unlocked, meaning it's a relative reference. That means when you copy the formula, the reference will change relative to its new position. Press F4 again and it's fully locked, an absolute reference. Now that reference will always stay fixed on that specific cell, no matter where you copy the formula.
And there are two more clicks for mixed references, right?
Yeah.
Where you lock either the row or the column.
Exactly. It gives you a ton of flexibility.
Okay, so I think I get the concept, but why does this even matter? Give me a real-world example of where this is going to save my life.
All right. Let's say you're putting together a budget in Excel. You have a column for expenses and you want to calculate the sales tax for each item.
Okay, I can picture that.
So you have a formula that multiplies the cost of each item by the sales tax rate, which you have in a separate cell. You copy that formula down the column, expecting each calculation to be correct. But suddenly, the numbers are all over the place.
Ugh, I've been there. Total spreadsheet meltdown.
And that's probably because you used a relative reference when you really needed an absolute reference.
So in this budget scenario, F4 would have been my best friend.
Exactly. If you use F4 to make the reference to the sales tax cell absolute, it doesn't matter where you copy the formula, it'll always point back to that original tax rate cell. No more wonky calculations.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So F4 is essentially a shortcut for adding those dollar signs that lock the row and column references.
You got it. It's way faster than typing them manually, especially in those monster formulas.
So it's about accuracy and efficiency.
Absolutely. Let's actually dive into an example from the source material we've been looking at for this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Let's say we've got a spreadsheet tracking sales for a bunch of different products. We have a column for prices, and we want a column to calculate the total price, including sales tax.
Okay, I'm following.
We've got the sales tax rate in a separate cell at the top of the sheet. Now, if we want to copy that formula down the entire price column.
We need to make sure the cell reference to the tax rate is absolute.
Right. Because each calculation, no matter what the product price is, needs to use that same tax rate.
Okay, so if I hadn't used F4 to make that an absolute reference, ouch, that'd be a nightmare to fix.
Major spreadsheet headache. And think about this. What if you're working with a massive spreadsheet or even multiple sheets linked together? Then the power of F4 and absolute references becomes even more crucial.
Yeah, that's a whole different level. It's like having a hand crank versus an electric motor. It's not just saving a few seconds. It's about being able to handle much bigger jobs.
That's a great way to put it. And the more you use F4, the more you realize it's not just T about avoiding errors. It lets you build much more complex, dynamic formulas and calculations because you have that fine-grained control over your references.
You know, this has been really eye-opening. I have to admit, I've totally been underestimating the F4 key.
I think a lot of people do. So now that you know this little secret, I want you to think about your own spreadsheets. Are there places where you've struggled with copying formulas, had to manually adjust things? Chances are F4 could have been the answer.
I'm going to go back and look at everything with a whole new perspective now. See where I could have saved myself some serious time and headaches.
That's the spirit. So there you have it. The F4 key. A seemingly simple tool that can unlock a whole new level of efficiency and control in Excel.
I'm a believer now. This little shortcut could make a big difference for anyone who uses spreadsheets. So go forth, listeners, and unlock the power of F4.